What is up, guys? I just got home. I'm gonna eat some food and then I'm gonna sit down and talk to you guys about my job, which is aircraft structural maintenance. So aircraft structural maintenance. What exactly do I do at my job? Well, for those of you that aren't maintenance inclined like I was before I joined, aircraft structural maintenance means that I do all of the sheet metal work on aircraft in the Air Force. And then I also do a bunch of other stuff. So my job also paints the aircraft. We do corrosion control. So we will remove corrosion and then repaint and top coat and prime all the aircraft. We also make all of the lines or tubing that goes into the aircraft. It's kind of interesting to explain my job now that I'm in, because before I joined I had zero idea what aircraft structural maintenance was. Now I'm going to do my best to try to explain what aircraft structural maintenance is and what I do and what I work with, because honestly, unless I could show you on an aircraft, there's no good way to get across to you guys what I do in the Air Force. So like I said earlier, aircraft structural maintenance is sheet metal on the aircraft in the Air Force. Now here at Kadena, I work on the F-15C models. And here's something that might confuse people. My job, I can go anywhere basically, except for like the F-35, F-22s. Can't work on those because those are similar to my job, but not entirely because it's low observable. So that's a whole nother career field for my job to work on those. And their tech school is actually at our tech school. They do the F-22s, F-35s. I can work on pretty much anything else in the Air Force. So this might confuse people. Here I work on the F-15C models. Now here we have 2 sheet metal shops. So if they wanted to, they could just send me to the other sheet metal shop. The other sheet metal shop here on base works on the HH-60 helicopters and also works on the KC-135 refuelers. And they do the exact same thing that I do on the F-15s, but just specific for that aircraft. So this can also be something that's kind of frustrating or difficult for me in my job, because my next base, I'm going to be working on HH-60s, which they have here, but I've just never been in that shop. Now I'm going to have to switch bases, learn new people, learn a whole new area, plus relearn my job on a different aircraft, because each aircraft is very different as far as what you can do on it. We have very descriptive orders on how to fix things on the aircraft. Now that's called a TO, or a technical order. We have these big laptops. Some bases have iPads. Just depends on your base. Every base you go to going to be completely different. Back to me being sheet metal. So I can do sheet metal on the F-15s, I can do it on HH-60s, I can do it on a KC-135. That's what we have here. If I would have gone to Beale, which was my number 2 pick after Nellis, if I would have gone to Beale, I would have worked on U-2s and something else. Global Hawks, which are drones, like really large drones. So that's what I would have worked on at Beale. And then my 3rd pick was Birmingham, had KC-135s, so refuelers. So I could go and work on pretty much anything. With my job, what exactly do I do? Well, I'm going to go through a typical day at work. So I show up to work and I work swing shifts. So I show up at 2:30. So anytime between 2:30 and 2:45 is when we're supposed to show up. We check the shop because we work 3 shifts. So we get turnover from another shift, then we turn over to the next shift, they turn over to the next shift, and that shift turns back over to us. So we come in and we check the shop because they'll be cleaning up and they'll be checking all their tools in, putting everything away, cleaning the boxes, cleaning the floor, everything. It's not all super fancy like you would think. I used to talk to people about that. I'd be like, oh yeah, when you join the Air Force, everything's going to be super clean, brand new, the machines are going to be top notch, like we're the most powerful, we spend the most money on our military, like everything's going to be amazing. Our shop is actually kind of run down and we have a lot of really old tools. And we still make it work. Come in, it's this really like beat up, run down shop, and we check everything. And then when everything's good, we let the shift know, and we're like, hey, you guys are good, we're going to take over. Cool. So they tell us everything that they were working on, all the maintenance they were doing, all the repairs they were doing, everything. We get turnover on that. So we're like, okay, what's done, what's not done? And anything that's not done, we just start going like, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, and you're going to be flightline. So lately I've been flightline because I'm the lowest ranking on my shift. Flightline is probably my least favorite thing because it's a bunch of little stuff here and there, and I like doing the bigger stuff because, I mean, you come in and they're like, hey, do this patch. And you're like, cool, I'll get into what patches are later. But you do a patch and it can take all night, so you don't get bothered. But lately I've been working flightline, so I'm going to explain that. So I come in, other guys check the shop, I check the flight line truck. Our flight line truck has a toolbox in it and a workbench and a vise. We check to make sure there's no FO in the truck, which is foreign objects, so basically like shavings, rivets, anything just like laying around that's loose, it shouldn't be hanging out in the truck. So check the truck, truck's good, check the box good, cool, get turnover. They're like, hey, nothing's going on the line right now, you're good. So I take a radio, and I walk around with a radio all night. But basically, someone on the radio, when a job comes up for me, a crew chief tells someone, that person tells someone, they tell someone, and then it comes to me, and they're like, hey, go do this, these crew chiefs need you on such and such spot. So then I hop in my truck, and I go out there and look at it. And they're like, yeah, man, these rivets are loose on the side of the aircraft. And I'm like, okay. So then what I do is I open up my laptop, like, okay, where are these rivets going? Like, are they in an area where I can just drill them out and then leave the rest of the rivet inside the aircraft? Or is it in an area that I can't leave any rivets inside, so they're going to have to pull a panel on top of the jet or underneath the jet. So when I drill the rivet out, then we can reach in and we can grab the rivet. Now a rivet is like a little fastener. It's really hard to explain. This is what the pictures are going to come in handy. This is a rivet. And this is a rivet, and a rivet. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different types of rivets that go into these aircraft. It's super crazy because when I joined the Air Force, we were in tech school, and I thought aircraft were welded together. I thought it was just big pieces of metal, and they were just like, just welded it all together. There's like 1 billion fasteners in these jets. Like little teeny. These things are so small. They're smaller than a pencil, like skinny-wise. And there's hundreds of thousands of them that hold an aircraft together. Like I've done a patch before that had over 300 rivets in it. Just a patch, it was like this big. And it had over 300 rivets in it. That's insane. Those come up a lot. We have loose rivets all the time. And then there's this thing called a nut plate. And this is a nut plate, and this is a nut plate, and there's like 1 billion different kinds of nut plates all over the aircraft. Now a nut plate is something that a panel has a bunch of holes in it that all these screws go into. Then the nut plate is riveted into the aircraft. So that way when they put the panel up, they just screw the screw into this nut plate, which is basically a stationary nut that is mounted to the aircraft. So they have to take panels on and off the jets all the time, and nut plates break all the time. That's probably what we do the most in our job, is replace broken nut plates, because it happens so much. So basically the crew chief is going to be taking off something and they'll be like, oh, I broke this nut plate. And they'll call someone that calls someone that calls someone that calls me and goes, hey, we need you on the spot. Crew chief broke a nut plate. You need you to go fix it. Cool. So I'll hop in my truck, drive out there. When I get out to the flight line, I have to do a FOD check. So I have to get out my truck. I have to park my truck, put the e-brake on, get out of the truck, look at all the tires, all 4, get back in the truck, roll forward a half turn, put it in park, pull the e-brake, get out, check all 4 tires again, get back in my truck, and then drive to the spot that I needed to go to, and then replace the nut plate. So I have to drill out, usually they have 2 rivets in them. So I drill out a rivet on each side, really small rivets, and then what I'll do is I'll take that one and go, cool, I need this one, go back to the shop. Go into our bench stock, huge bins full of all the stuff that we use. Get the nut plate I need, go back on the line, park my car, pull the e-brake, get out, check all 4 tires, get back in the truck, pull forward a half turn, get out, check all 4 tires, get back in the truck, drive to the spot, and then I shoot the new nut plate in with 2 new fasteners. So I take 2 new rivets and I either squeeze them or I use a pull-through gun with a pull-through rivet. Yeah, there's like 1 billion things you can do with my job. All endless. However you want to do it, pretty much, except for you have to follow TO, which is that laptop I talked about earlier, which tells you what you can do and what you can't do, and then some things in our job are kind of just open for whatever you want to do. And then we have a bunch of evals. That is another big thing in my job. So on the flight line, they'll be like, hey, we got this dent on this flap, or we got this dent on the wing, on the fuselage, or anywhere. So they'll call us out because we deal with the sheet metal, we deal with the dents on the sheet metal. So I go out there with this little pit depth gauge, which measures how far down the dent is. And I'll look at my TO, I'll open it up, and I'll go find the panel. And then I find like the chart that says like, oh, they're allowed to have this big of a dent in it. And then I'll measure it, and then I'll be like, all right, that's bad, or it's good. So then it'll be like, hey, this is bad. They gotta send it to the shop. If it's a panel or a door, they can remove it. They will remove it, and they will send it to our shop, which is back shop, which is what I enjoy doing more than Flightline. But right now I'm talking about Flightline. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about Flightline is doing evals on lines or tubing. Now, an aircraft has like hundreds of lines. like little teeny lines, like a 1/4-inch line up to like 3-inch lines, like lines that are this big, that run all through this jet everywhere. Like you depanel the jets and there's just lines everywhere. It's really crazy. I didn't realize all the stuff that went into an aircraft. I just thought it was like a bunch of pieces of metal welded together and somehow magic made it fly, because I didn't think that they put so much stuff inside of an aircraft. So they'll open up some panels and there'll be like 15 lines going all over the place, and you're like, oh gosh. And they're like, yeah man, this line right here, it's got a dent on it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So then I gotta like take my little tool, the little pit depth gauge thing, and try to measure how deep that dent is. And then I'm like, yeah man, that stuff's not good. Not good at all. So they're like, what can you guys do? And then I gotta look at it and go, well, can we cut it out of the jet? Maybe you guys just need to replace it completely, so you guys gotta pull the whole line. Sometimes the lines are short enough. They'll be like this long, or like under 3 feet long. So for them, it's like, yeah, we'll just pull it and like we can order a new one. But sometimes they'll be like, yeah, we can pull it, but then they're like, there's no more left in the Air Force. You guys have to remake it. So then I'll be like, send that back to the shop because I can't do it on the flight line. So then I get sent back to back shop for my job. But if it is on the line, it's like, oh, the damage is here. Yeah, we can just cut this section out and I'll just take it back to the shop, remake that section quick, come back out on the jet, and then we shoot it back in the jet, and then it's good to go. So that's pretty much it for flight line stuff that I'm going to talk about right now. So earlier I was saying we have 2 sheet metal shops. One that works on these 2 different aircraft and one that works on the F-15s like I do. Then we also have a corrosion facility where they paint the aircraft and they paint a lot of the aircraft parts. So that is something that I have to do in my job too. So for 2 months I went down to corrosion, got trained on everything, and then they moved me back to sheet metal, and I've been at sheet metal ever since. But if I wanted to go, hey, can I go down to corrosion? They'd be like, okay, we got to find someone to swap you out with because it's a 1-for-1. Because we're all the same job, it's just a different shop. Like you do a completely different job, but we're the same job, if that makes sense to you guys. So you go down to corrosion, you paint aircraft. Really, really dangerous, lots of chemicals. I didn't enjoy it because you're like, you got to wear this like plastic bag suit. It's literally like a garbage bag that you have to wear when you paint the aircraft or do anything in there. And you'll be in it for like 6 hours sometimes. Like sweat, like puddles of sweat in your boots. It's gross. And I just didn't like it. It wasn't fun to me because a lot of it was just like brain dead work. Like you would sand the entire jet down before we painted it. So we would have these little DA sanders, little circular like rotating sanders, and you just sit there and go over every inch of the aircraft. Like, aircraft's pretty big. Well, F-15s aren't that big, but an F-15 compared to us is pretty big. And when you have to sand like the entire jet, it's a lot of sanding. It can take like over 8 hours. So like a whole shift, you're just sitting in a plastic bag sanding an aircraft. And then after you sand it, you gotta wipe down the entire jet until your rags are clean. You use alcohol and you wipe down the entire jet, and then you'll be like, oh, it's still dirty. Wipe down the entire jet, still dirty. You just keep wiping it down until when you're wiping the aircraft down with alcohol, there's no more like dirt or debris on your rag. It sucks. Then you get to do the fun stuff of painting the aircraft, which wasn't actually that bad. It was pretty fun. So you just went up there and you would just spray the aircraft with primer, and then after you finish spraying with primer, you would go over and spray it with top coat. So like gray is what our F-15s are. So we would paint our F-15s gray, and then you spray the pattern on it, and we like had to do all that stuff. And then you put the stencils on it, and you spray over the stencils. And then you put the other stencils all over, and you spray on those stencils. And it's a lot of work. I didn't like painting aircraft because it was just a lot of work, and it just wasn't fun to me. Sheet metal's more fun to me, and I'm not even a huge fan of sheet metal. Right now I'm going to get into why you should or shouldn't do aircraft structural maintenance. Now, I never tell anybody when they message me, do not do my job. I don't particularly enjoy my job a whole lot because it's not something that I've ever wanted to really do, or something that I've ever had a passion for or enjoyed or wanted to do. So this is what I tell everybody else. When you think about what you want to do in the Air Force, base it off of what you like doing, what you want to do with your life, and where you want to go in life. And take what the Air Force has to offer and try to plug into one of those things that will help you fulfill your dreams in life. So for me, I wanted to be obviously like combat camera or public affairs or broadcast journalist. That's what I really wanted to do. Found out I was color deficient, couldn't do it. Really sucked. But those were some of my top choices before I found out I was color deficient. Not a surprise to probably most of you, because you're like, yeah, you've been making videos since like before you joined the Air Force. I'm like, I know, that's why I wanted to do it for the Air Force, because I love it. And now I still do it in my free time, like 40 hours a week, but I have to do this other job that I don't really have a passion for. So just make sure when you join, don't go, Kyle Gott does sheet metal, I want to do sheet metal. Don't do that. That's not good. Don't go, this looks cool, I want to do this. Look at what you're really interested in, not what looks cool. Because my job might look super, super cool from the outside, just like me and McKenna make our lives look super awesome. But really, most of the time we're like super stressed out and always busy, and we always feel like we're behind. And yeah, but we make our lives look super awesome because we document the good parts, which is what most of the information online is. So that's why I just don't want people to get in a situation where they're like, man, Kyle lied to me. He made this look so good. So when you join, make sure you're doing it for a reason. Not like, Kyle made aircraft structural maintenance look cool because he was aircraft structural maintenance and he gets to work on the jets. Only do that if you really want to do maintenance, or if you really want to do sheet metal or aircraft structural maintenance. Because it is important to do what you want to do in your life. Actually, on my website, I have a page that is an FAQ page, and on there I even tell how to pick what job you want to do in the Air Force, but I'm going to break it down for you guys right now. So I say to look at everything the Air Force has to offer, and you pick your jobs based on what you want out of it and out of life. So if you're really into computer stuff, you're probably going to be looking into a lot of the computer-based jobs. And that's awesome, because that's what you're interested in. That's what you really want to do. I feel like most people, once they're in, the reason they don't like their job is because they didn't really want to do that specific job in the first place. Now, there are some people that are like, I didn't want to do this job and now I love it. But there are a lot of people that are like, man, I never wanted to do this job and I still don't have a passion for it. And it's really tough to see people like that, because it's like you don't have a choice once you sign that contract and you join. So just make sure you are looking out for yourself and you're picking a job that you are 100% interested in. Like, these are what I really want to do because of good reasons, not because Kyle Gott does this job so I want to do it. Have it be like, I really like doing maintenance. I really like being dirty. I really like working with sheet metal. I really like aircraft. Those are good reasons to do aircraft structural maintenance. Not, it looks cool so I want to do it. Because if you don't have a passion or desire to actually do the maintenance part of it, beyond it being cool or looking cool, it's probably going to be a lot harder for you to enjoy. So next I'm going to go on to back shop for my job. Now, back shop for me, that's where the fun's at. That's where you're going to do the awesome stuff. So earlier, the guy on the line, me, I call this panel bad for that dent, right? They send it back to the shop. So then we got a guy in the shop that is like, yeah, I'll accept this part. We check it in, put it on one of the tables, the workbenches where we have a box, and they're like, oh, let's look up in the TO what the repair is for this, because for every panel there's like its own repair or this or that. So you got to look everything up, because it's going to tell you how to do it and you have to follow it. So this panel comes in, you're like, yeah, this dent out of limits. So in the TO it says cut a hole out, and then from there you got to put a patch on it. It has to have 2 rivet rows all the way around it. So you make this big square patch and you just put it on this panel and you rivet it all together and then you send it back out. But that usually take anywhere from like 3 to 12 hours to do some patches. Usually patches on the aircraft take a lot longer. Patches on panels in shop are really easy for the most part, which is what I really enjoy, because they don't take like 12 hours. Some of them can take 3 hours or 6 hours. So you come in and they're like, yeah, we got this panel in. I'm like, yes. Because then you just start working on a panel. Then you have lunch, and then you rivet the patch onto it after lunch, and then it's done, and then you only have like 2 hours left of work, and you're like, wow, I just like knocked out a patch, and like time went by really fast. So I really like doing patches. Now, back shop also has to deal with that line that I called bad earlier, and the crew chiefs had to take it out and go, hey, we can't order this line, you guys have to remake it. So we take it to the shop, and we have to remake this line that has like 6 bends in it exactly the same way, and then put the end fittings on it and take it back to the crew chiefs and be like, here you go, here's your line. That can take a while depending on the type of line it is, because there's aluminum, titanium, and steel lines that we use. Sorry I've been talking so much. There's just a lot to say about my job. And the crazy thing is about it, this is only here, like my own experience. And everyone that comes from other bases is like, whoa, at my base, we didn't even have this stuff, or we didn't have that, or we didn't do this, or we didn't do that. My next base, I'm working on helicopters, which they do a lot of fiberglass repairs. We also do advanced composites, which is like carbon fiber, fiberglass. The HH-60s have a lot of fiberglass on them, and I have done maybe 3 fiberglass repairs in 3 years that I've been in the Air Force. And now I'm going to have to go from doing one every year to doing them like every week. So that's going to be a huge learning experience for me, because I'm going to have to be proficient at doing this, because I'm a senior airman, so I should know my job proficiently. But I'm going to get to this base and be like, dude, I've never done this stuff. Like, I don't even know what tools I'm supposed to use properly, because I don't ever do it. And I'm going to be expected to pick it up like instantly. So that's going to be probably my biggest concern when I get there. It's going to be having to relearn a lot of things that I've forgotten over the 3 years I've been in the Air Force that are a part of my job, but I just don't do them on the specific aircraft that I work on. So then, on top of back shop, all the parts and everything that come in, and then sometimes they'll be like, hey, this part came in and it's like bent 4 different ways. It's supposed to be bent, like it has like a radius, so it'll be like an L angle like this, but then it has like a little tab on the end that bends the other way, and a tab over here that bends this way. So then what we'll do is we'll measure everything, or cut out that shape, and then we make all the bends in the same spot. And I don't know what I was just doing with my hand, like a little dance right there, but we'll make all the bends in the same spots. You'll be like, hey, look at this bracket, and I made this bracket. You're like, whoa, they look the same, because you made exactly what you were supposed to. Because then we're going to take that out on the jet. We're going to drill a bunch of holes in it onto the aircraft. Well, the holes are on the aircraft. We're going to drill from the aircraft to the part, and then we're going to shoot rivets in the part, because everything gets a rivet. How the whole aircraft is held together. Then we have phase. So phase is when they take an aircraft and they're like, we're going to take everything off this aircraft and we're going to inspect every inch of it and we're going to tell you everything that's broken. And you're like, oh gosh. And then that's what we have phase almost constantly. Like every once in a while we'll get like a week gap between phases, or we get like a 2 or 3 day gap between a phase, and then they roll the next phase jet in. They take everything apart, and then they'll tell us to like inspect certain things and all these cracks, and yeah, there's a lot. Phases 4 is to literally gut the aircraft, find everything wrong with it, and we repair, replace, or repair everything. So phase is kind of like flight line in a way, but it's kind of like back shop in a way. Because when they do phase, they break a ton of nut plates, because they're depaneling the entire aircraft. So lots and lots of broken nut plates, other random things that are broken, and they inspect for like little cracks inside of all these panels and all these brackets that break. But then they also find some really big cracks or some really big broken things. So instead of doing that patch inside of our shop, this patch has to be done on the aircraft. So someone's got to stick out here doing this patch for like 8-10 hours, and they just work out on the aircraft drilling up this patch. I prefer back shop. I don't mind phase so much. I just like not going back and forth all the time. Flight line, when you got to do a FOD check every single time, which you have to do that every time you drive on the flight line. Every time. So like say I get called out for a nut plate, go out to do it, got to do a FOD check. Get to the aircraft, drill the nut plate out, go back to the shop to get the nut plate, go back out, got to do a FOD check. Go to the aircraft, shoot on, come back to the shop. 5 minutes later, hey man, you got another job. Go back out, FOD check, go out. They're like, oh crap, I need to go back to the shop for this. Come back to the shop, go back out, do another FOD check. So you're like, all night, I hate flight line just because you're like parking your car, getting out, walking around it, get back in, pull it forward like 2 feet, get out, check all 4 tires, get back in. I want to just sit there and work, like right here in front of me. That's the best I can explain my job to you guys, and hope you guys understand. I don't even fully understand my job sometimes, so yeah. Like there's a lot that goes into my job. I probably didn't even tell you guys 50% of what we do. So I just tried to explain the basic stuff that would make sense to you guys some way, because then I could go into like super detail, and then that would just start to confuse me. So I'm just not going to do that to you guys. So I hope you guys appreciated this. This is the first time I've actually sat down and really talked about my job. I've been in for 3 years, so I know a lot of you have probably been waiting for it. Hopefully this helped answer a lot of questions. If it didn't, be sure to leave them in the comment section below and give this video a thumbs up. And if you guys could subscribe, I really appreciate it. If you guys have video ideas, don't be shy. Leave them in the comment section below. 2 videos a week, every Tuesday and Thursday. So one of your guys' suggestions could become a video. And until next time, be sure to check out my website, guys, kylegott.com. If you're joining the Air Force, got lots of good information on there. and lots of good information to come. Going to constantly be building this website, so if you guys go there, check it out. Let me know what you think of it, and until next time, be sure to check out my last video. Peace out, guys. So I'm off to do my PT test for the Air Force, and you have to wear your PT uniform, so that's why I got my PT shirt on. I got my pants on right now because it is wet outside, so it's kind of cold.